Destiny is all, and Netflix's The Last Kingdom has finally met its destiny. The Last Kingdom Season 5 premiered on Netflix today, showing us how Uhtred of Bebbanburg's Alexander Draymond story finally ends. We saw the warriors' final showdown with Brida, Emily Cox, his tragic farewell to Lady Love Aethelhelm, Millie Brady, and Uhtred's long-awaited return to Bebbanburg. So how exactly does Netflix's The Last Kingdom end? The Last Kingdom is based on Bernard Cornwell's best-selling Saxon stories. Those sweeping historic novels follow a mostly fictional character named Uhtred who rubs elbows with Saxons and Danes during a tumultuous time in English history. Uhtred was born a Saxon, but after his father's fortress at Bebbanburg was overrun by Danes, he and a girl named Brida were adopted by the warriors. For the last 5 seasons, Uhtred has fallen in love, fought with valor, and changed the course of history. His one true goal? Reclaiming Bebbanburg for himself and his children. So what happens in the final moments of The Last Kingdom? Will there be more seasons of The Last Kingdom? Here's everything you need to know about The Last Kingdom Season 5's finale. Does Uhtred die? The Last Kingdom's final episode opens where it all began. Bebbanburg. Uhtred has snuck into the castle to help save his beloved Aethelflaed's kidnapped daughter, Elfwin, from the scheming Aethelhelm and his current ally, King Constantin of Scotland. Uhtred's nemesis Witger attempts to threaten Elfwin's life on the battlements. Uhtred, hiding there, grapples with Witger to save Elfwin. While Elfwin flees, Uhtred finds himself reunited with his friends, but Witger alerts his enemies. A battle ensues with Edward leading his forces, including Aethelstan, against Bebbanburg, while Witger hunts Uhtred inside. Hild offers to try to sneak Elfwin to the gate. Uhtred and buddies decide to distract their enemies with a fight so the women can get away. However, Constantin hatches a plot to make it look like they've fled Bebbanburg to lure Edward to his doom. Uhtred and pals head back to the ramparts where they can see Constantin's trap. Edward's forces are surrounded and Constantin strikes, pushing Edward's army into the sea. All seems lost, but Uhtred and his boys make it outside of Bebbanburg. He finds Stiora and begs his daughter to commit her Danish forces to the Saxon cause. Uhtred calls upon his dual background to say that if they win, Northumbria will be a place where Danes and Saxons will live together in harmony. Stiora and her people agree and manage to attack the Scots from the rear. Constantin panics and orders his men to set Bebbanburg on fire. Uhtred runs into Bebbanburg to face Witger. First he must battle his lackeys. Aethelstan follows his mentor into the fortress and finds Aethelhelm. His half-brother Elfward enters and threatens Aethelstan, who in turn reveals the evil older dude's schemes were responsible for Elfward's mother's death. Elfward abandons his grandfather, who decides to die by suicide when Aethelstan chooses to leave him alive. Uhtred and Witger grapple in the dark, and our hero easily kills his evil cousin by pushing him off a balcony. Uhtred and Aethelstan reunite in the burning courtyard of Bebbanburg. Aethelstan wants him to leave, but Uhtred says it is his destiny to die in Bebbanburg. The heavens open up and quench the fires with rain. Uhtred finally takes his birthright and negotiates a peace with Constantin, who leaves. Our hero is reunited with his children. All of them. Uhtred reveals that he promised Constantin that Northumbria would remain a buffer zone between England and Scotland until a ruler worthy of uniting England comes along. That's Aethelstan, the first historic king of a unified England. We get a final montage where Uhtred acknowledges that he is Uhtred, son of Uhtred, and destiny is all. Who is Osbert, the kid Hild brings to Bebbanburg at the end of The Last Kingdom? After Uhtred and Edward defeat their enemies, we see tons of celebratory reunions. One major one, though, happens off-screen. But it happens. Good old Hild is hurrying to Bebbanburg with a kid named Osbert. The teen is hoping someone at the fortress can tell him about his father. Hild confirms this is the case because yes, Uhtred is Osbert's father. Hardcore fans will remember Osbert was Uhtred's name before his older brother died, and he was re-baptized with his father's name. It's easy to forget, but Osbert is the baby that Uhtred's wife Gisela died giving birth to ages and ages ago. He was adopted by the church and has therefore escaped most of his family's adventures. Osbert is young Uhtred and Stiora's full sibling, so it would have been interesting to see that reunion. Osbert is also the boy Hild says is too young to help Uhtred in The Last Kingdom Season 5 Episode 9. What happens to Brida in The Last Kingdom Season 5? Uhtred's fate has always been tied to Brida's, and so has hers been to him. The Last Kingdom Season 5 opens by revealing that Brida has been hiding out in Iceland for a few years. There, the daughter she gave birth to has been recognized as a seer. Brida has been building an army of Danes viciously obsessed with the old gods to go back to the kingdoms of England to take her vengeance. Brida castrates young Uhtred and hunts down Stiora, who is a Danish queen at this point. However, her war with Stiora soon gets vicious. She massacres innocents and Christians, all to get under Uhtred's skin, but she mostly pisses off Stiora. When Brida's daughter dies in a fall, the warrior has nothing left to live for. In The Last Kingdom Season 5 Episode 7, Brida coaxes Uhtred into the forest they travel together in their youth. She has dug a grave for their final fight to the death. It's obvious she wants Uhtred to kill her, but he refuses. In doing so, he seems to rekindle a bit of the old Brida, but it's for naught. Stiora shoots Brida with an arrow, ending the saga of Brida and Uhtred for good. Bebbanburg. Uhtred's epic quest comes to a close in Bebbanburg, his ancestral home, which was taken from him by his evil uncle Elfric decades ago, and then inherited by his cold-hearted cousin Witger. Uhtred has crept into the castle of Bebbanburg to assist in the rescue of his beloved Aethelflaed's abducted daughter, Elfwin, from the cunning Aethelhelm and his current ally, King Constantin of Scotland. Witger, Uhtred's enemy, tries to kill Elfwin atop the battlements. Uhtred, who is hiding there, fights Witger to save Elfwin. Uhtred is reunited with his friends while Elfwin flees, but Witger notifies his foes. Edward leads his men, including Aethelstan, against Bebbanburg, while Witger hunts Uhtred inside. Hild proposes sneaking Elfwin through the fence. Uhtred and his companions resolve to fight their adversaries in order for the women to flee. However, Constantin designs a ruse to make it look like they've escaped Bebbanburg to draw Edward to his fate. Uhtred and his companions return to the ramparts, where Constantin's trap can be seen. When Edward's army is surrounded, Constantin strikes, forcing Edward's army into the water. Fire. Even though it appears that all is lost, Uhtred and his companions make it to the outskirts of Bebbanburg. He tracks down Stiora and asks his daughter to join the Saxon cause with her Danish soldiers. Uhtred draws on his mixed heritage to declare that if they win, Northumbria will be a country where Danes and Saxons can live in peace. Stiora and her people agree, and the Scots are attacked from behind. Constantin panics and orders his soldiers to set fire to Bebbanburg. The worthy ruler, Uhtred, rushes into Bebbanburg in order to confront Witger. He must first defeat his lackeys. Aethelstan finds Aethelhelm after following his mentor into the stronghold. Elfward, his half-brother, enters and threatens Aethelstan, who then discloses that the nasty older dude's plot was responsible for the death of Elfward's mother. When Aethelstan chooses to leave him alive, Elfward abandons his grandfather, who commits suicide. In the dark, Uhtred and Witger fight, and Uhtred effortlessly dispatches his evil cousin by tossing him off a balcony. Uhtred and Aethelstan reconnect in Bebbanburg's blazing courtyard. Aethelstan wants him to leave, but Uhtred insists that Bebbanburg is his fate. The skies open up as rain pours down, putting out the fires. Uhtred ultimately obtains his birthright and strikes a deal with Constantin, who then departs. Uhtred explains to Constantin that he promised him that Northumbria would serve as a buffer between England and Scotland until a monarch worthy of uniting England appeared. Is the siege successful? Episode 10 of The Last Kingdom Season 5 starts with a stray arrow fired in Aethelstan's direction. That symbolizes an emphatic no to surrender. Aethelhelm decides they should play for time, wanting to get the marriage underway while Edward attacks. Constantin is a fighter though, and refuses to bend to Aethelhelm's will. Witger's plan to use Elfwin as bait to lure the army and king in is immediately thwarted by Uhtred, who shows and attacks Witger, urging Elfwin to run away. He soon reunites with Finan and Citricon en route to the main chamber, who have broken out in their own way. They also find out about Heston's death too, although it seems he's going to Valhalla, which is at least something. The siege begins, and with Edward watching on from afar, the battering ram hammers into the front gate. Hot oil stops the Saxons in their tracks. On the horizon, Constantin's army approaches. As they do, Uhtred overhears Aethelhelm and Constantin, with the latter deciding against a siege, given it's for turds, and comes up with a plan to trick Edward into thinking they're surrendering. Does Edward fall for Constantin's trap? Who dies in the battle? The thing is, Constantin intends to attack from two fronts, inside the fortress and behind Edward's army, hence the soldiers approaching from the rear. Uhtred tries to urge the king not to progress forward, but he's met with a volley of arrows when he pokes his head above the ramparts. Everything is lost, with Edward and his men pushed ever nearer to the sea, thanks to Constantin joining the fight. Among the deceased, Aethelhelm is crushed after trying to fight back, while numerous soldiers start to drop off the cliff edge. While this is going on, Uhtred and Finan notice Diora on the outskirts of battle, and rides out to urge her to help. She believes they're too late, but Uhtred instead makes a promise. He wants Danes and Saxons to live in peace and to do this for their forebears. It's a rousing speech and enough to convince them to join in. Why does Aethelhelm kill himself? With the battle turning and the combined forces of Edward and Uhtred working together, Constantin decides to burn the fortress to the ground. In the wake of all this though, Edward is wounded in battle, while Uhtred notices Wicker up on the ramparts and hurries inside the courtyard to chase him. Aethelstan appears too and finds Aethelhelm, demanding he tell the truth about the queen in front of his grandson. Aethelhelm eventually admits the truth to Alfred, who's shocked to hear of his betrayal. He throws down his sword and walks away. Aethelstan won't kill the old man, but instead, he commits suicide, claiming he's a man of honor. Meanwhile, Uhtred goes hunting for Wicker and eventually kills him, throwing him off a balcony, and allowing him to be pierced in the heart on the way down. The trouble is, while all this is going on, the soldiers manage to burn the fortress. Uhtred decides to stay as his destiny lies with dying in Bebbanburg until it starts raining. It seems the gods have other plans for Uhtred, and this rain helps to put out the flames. How does Uhtred broker peace between Scotland and England? Off the back of this, Uhtred bargains with Constantin for the release of his commander for the men he's taken hostage. He wants Uhtred to swear fealty to Scotland, but he refuses. Instead, he has other ideas. The land will remain as Northumbria and not part of England as Edward wants. Instead, Uhtred will hold the land and tells Edward later on that he's not the king to lead England forward and unite them as one. That's to come later on, as it's written in history to be Aethelstan, who's the great Anglo-Saxon king of our time. Despite his anger, and with the battle won, Edward agrees to let the Danes live in peace. How does The Last Kingdom Season 5 end? As the episode closes out, Uhtred continues to train with Aethelstan, who actually bests him in a sword fight while training. This is a lovely bit of foreshadowing for what's to come from him. As Uhtred looks out at the horizon, uttering destiny is all, tears well up as he reflects on the grand journey leading to this moment. Is there going to be a Season 6 of Last Kingdom? Netflix has not announced any plans to continue the story with additional seasons of The Last Kingdom, but there is supposed to be a spin-off movie starring Alexander Draymond as the hero. What a great finale and a fitting ending to one of the best period dramas on TV. While I am glad all these episodes released at once, there's also a part of me that wishes they were spread out a bit, so more people could experience what an amazing show this is. The final episode is bittersweet, with a tear-jerking montage to show how far Uhtred has come. The threat of Constantin is obviously not over, and those who know their history will know that Aethelstan's rise captures the next step in English history. Overall though, Last Kingdom has been utterly enthralling and easily one of the best period dramas this year. The show has been just as action-packed as before, along with a cleverly woven politically intriguing story that this show has been well known for over the years. Although this episode does leave everything resolved properly, there's also enough of a plot left behind for possible spin-offs after the upcoming movie that's coming. A fitting end for an excellent show, The Last Kingdom bows out on a high. Could this be one of the best shows this year so far or not? What is your thoughts? Comment in box.